So, my fellow wizards, if you're anything like me, you like to collect rare or, just random stuff and hoard it in your houses until the end of time because you cannot make me throw it away, KI. I need it. So in keeping with that theme, on this episode of Wizard101 Hoarders Edition, I'm going to show you yet another rare and underappreciated set of wands because something tells me you all still need new Stitch ideas. Or, just more decoration for your walls. Okay, so today we're headed to a magical place that for some reason goes entirely underappreciated by most players. Barkingham Palace. Sound familiar to anyone? This is the level 40 dungeon of Marleybone that many people seem to just ignore entirely in their mad rush to do far less important things. But today I want to give this place a little more love because it genuinely drops some really cool stuff, including some amazing wands for stitching. There are 3 wands in all that drop here, and each has a unique school-locked version for all 7 schools with various names, so I'm going to generally refer to them by category, and you can pause to see your school's specific name. First is this mace-like wand, which is gold with a glowing red effect on the orb at the top. This one reminds me a lot of the Viridian Scepter Code wand and is a great alternative if you like the look but want a different color scheme. This wand actually has a full-on attack animation kind of like some sword wands, which is interesting because it doesn't exactly have a blade. Of the 3, I think this wand has the most versatility for potential stitches, so I'd love to see what you all come up with. The second option is this really cool scepter wand with gold and red accents along with a black handle. The top has this neat decoration in the shape of a royal British crown and has a nice red glow to it. It does just use the standard wand animation, which is a bit disappointing, but this wand is honestly perfect for any royal king or queen themed stitch, and I think goes especially well with the crown's hat or the monarch set from the Fantastic Fairy Tale bundle. Combine it with the pumpkin carriage or maybe even the Mander palanquin mount and you're riding in style. We'll just ignore the undertones of rampant colonialism and Mander oppression, and people say this is still a kid's game. Anyway, finally is the third wand and my personal favorite, which I'm calling the trophy wand. To me, this wand has the most unique design of the 3 and really stands out as an underappreciated stitch option. It's got a great design with the bright royal red base and some pretty intricate gold detailing along with the cross at the top in the shape of dog bones, which is a nice touch. It also has both a red and gold glowing effect, which makes it really stand out in a battle. While the casting animation is pretty simple, it does help show off this wand's amazing colors, so it's not terrible. My first thought was that this wand kind of looks like the red Fabergé egg housing item, but now I'm pretty sure it's actually a reference to Monty Python and the Holy Grail's Holy Hand Grenade, which is both clever and hilarious.
We have the Holy Hand Grenade!
Yes, of course! 3!
Just like the Scepter Wand, this would go great with any royalty-themed stitch, but I also think it could go great with a knight-themed stitch as well, just to lean all the way into the Monty Python cosplay. Add a rabbit pet on the side, and this is a top-tier stitch. Honestly, I get so excited when I see a cosplay stitch that I recognize. Keep up the good work, people. Okay, so those are all your wand stitching options, so now let's talk about where you can get them. Barkingham Palace is actually split into 3 different sections: the statewing, main hall, and rooftops. And the bosses in each can drop different versions of the wands. You'll need to complete each dungeon in order to access the next, starting with the statewing and ending with the rooftops. Know that while this dungeon can be farmed at any level for drops, the drops are school locked, so if you use a storm wizard for example, you will only get storm school drops. Thankfully, all the wands look the same regardless of school, so this shouldn't affect you if you just want a copy for stitching, but it can affect you if you're farming for other gear with certain stats. The drops can vary slightly depending on your school, but generally the mace wands drop from Dr. Jackall and Margherita Vizzini in the rooftops, and the noxious gas golem in the main hall. The scepter wands drop exclusively from Dr. Jackall in the rooftops, and finally, the trophy wands drop from Dr. Jackall and Mr. Utterson/Mr. Poole in the rooftops, and from the woman's right hand in the statewing. While you can farm any of these bosses, I recommend sticking mostly with the rooftops because every boss there has a chance at dropping the wands, and obviously Dr. Jackall can potentially drop all 3. In addition, many of these bosses also drop really useful items like wooden skeleton keys, as well as level 40 gear that in most cases is a direct upgrade from the level 30 Olympus gear for every school. Take that, you overgrown chicken. You can also farm for damage boosting school rings here, which are an amazing addition to your gear at this level. I honestly don't know why most people seem to skip these dungeons, because they really do have a lot to offer. Come on guys, the queen won't bite much. Before you dive in though, I do have a few more tips for farming so you can get your wands as quickly as possible. Depending on where you decide to farm for your gear, there are going to be cheating bosses that may make your life difficult if you go in unprepared. Thankfully, for the first dungeon, the statewing, you should have no major issues because there are only 2 mobs, followed by the woman's right hand, who actually has no cheats, so this may be a good option if you only want the trophy wand. If, however, you're going specifically for the mace wands, I do recommend the rooftops over the main hall, but if you're determined, you can get them to drop from the noxious gas golem, but it won't be easy. After a regular mob fight, you'll first have to get through Chief Whip, a life boss with an annoying tendency to cast spirit armor and several healing spells. When you cast a damage spell, there's a chance he'll interrupt cast spirit armor. If you take out his minion, he'll interrupt cast rebirth to revive him. If you cast any healing spells, he'll cast entangle on you, and the minion can even donate pips to Chief Whip. Obviously, this boss can be a nightmare once he gets into a rhythm of healing regularly, so you'll want to, as quickly as possible, blade up your strongest hitter, feint or trap Chief Whip, and take out both him and his minion as quickly as possible with one strong AoE to avoid the issue of the boss reviving his minion and healing with the rebirth cheat. However, even once you defeat him, you haven't seen the last of him yet. Yeah, unfortunately, Chief Whip retreats to the next room where you now have to face him again, along with the noxious gas golem boss. Chief Whip keeps the exact same cheats, except now the fight is made much more difficult with the gas golem who regularly summons gas golem elemental mobs, can sacrifice them for extra pips, replace Chief Whip with an additional gas golem elemental if he's defeated, and every 4th round cast smokescreen on all wizards in the battle. And yes, Chief Whip will also again attempt to cast Rebirth if you defeat the gas golem boss or his minions, while also blocking your heals. So between the accuracy debuffs, minion summoning, and boss healing, this entire fight can turn into a nightmare scenario very quickly. I highly recommend the good old blade up, feint, and kill everything with an AoE strategy, but if you must take down the bosses one at a time, make sure you focus down Chief Whip first, because he may just revive the noxious gas golem if you kill it first instead, which undoes all your hard work. Honestly, I find this fight far more annoying than the rooftops by far, even though it's only the 2nd dungeon, so I really don't recommend farming the noxious gas golem for the mace wands unless you're really feeling like you want a challenge, especially since rooftops has 2 different bosses who can drop it more easily. Finally, if you're farming the rooftops like I recommended, you'll need to be aware that all the 3 fights have bosses with cheats you'll probably want to avoid. Margherita Vizzini is the first boss you'll encounter and has several cheats up her sleeve. If she is damaged, she can interrupt cast a Myth Blade on herself and then use a natural attack on a wizard. She will also sometimes interrupt cast a Storm Prism and then Triton you, and she can also pierce or disarm you depending on what shields or charms you have active. Finally, once her health drops below 50%, she can cast a Myth Bubble and also Myth Trap you every round. Thankfully, these cheats are fairly easy to work around if you just blade up and then use an AoE to wipe out both her and her minion at the same time. She's most dangerous if her minion is dead and she's still alive under 50% health, so try to avoid that. The next bosses to worry about are Mr. Utterson and Mr. Poole, who tend to mirror each other's spells in annoying ways.
Wonder Twin powers activate!
Yeah. For instance, if one puts a trap on you, the other will immediately follow suit, along with casting blades on themselves and using natural attacks, so be aware if one does something, the other will generally follow up in the same way using an interrupt cast. The only other cheat to worry about is if Mr. Utterson casts a Legion Shield, Mr. Poole will place a fuel trap on your wizard and vice versa. Similarly to Margherita Vizzini, the easiest way to deal with these 2 is to blade up and feint and then AoE both at once to kill them. However, if that doesn't work for you, focusing down one makes it a lot easier to then take down the other since the cheats will not activate anymore. Finally is the bad boy himself, Dr. Jackall, or should I say, Mr. Hound. This boss is interesting in that he switches between 2 different forms and uses both fire and ice spells. While in his Jackal form, he uses ice spells and can interrupt cast ice bubbles and also Legion shields if he's damaged. His natural attack also allows him to use Steel Ward on the wizard he attacks. However, after every 4th round, Dr. Jackall will polymorph into Mr. Hound and apply a fire bubble. During this phase, he will cast a fire blade on himself and then use a natural attack if damaged. In both phases, if his minions are all defeated and he's still alive, Dr. Jackall, / Mr. Hound, will cast a lava giant with an accuracy debuff on your wizard. Since Dr. Jackall's ice spells tend to be more defensive and he'll likely shield at some point, I recommend first taking out his minions with an AoE and removing any shields he has placed on himself, then try to follow up and finish him off in Mr. Hound phase when his attacks are more offensive and he won't be shielding himself anymore, though you do need to watch out for the lava giant. However you defeat him, you should have a decent chance of nailing one of his wands, and as an added bonus, he does have a second chance chest if you want to gamble a few crowns for another chance at the drop you want. Once you get your wands, you're all set to roam the spiral like the true queen or king you are. Anyway, that's how you get the 3 different Buckingham Palace wands, so you can finally lord it over all the peasants in the comments, or stay the F away. Let me know if there's any other rare wands or interesting stitches you'd like me to cover. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, and as always, I hope to see you out there in the spiral, and happy questing.